Another US government shutdown is here. Now we've all seen the headlines, but here's the thing that nobody's talking about. How a shutdown impacts the cannabis community. From big multi-state operators to medical patients, everyday consumers and even home gardeners. The ripple effects are real. And today we're breaking it all down. The hidden ways that a government shutdown shakes up the industry and why it may matter more than you think. And at the end, I'll show you what both sides are saying and of course give you the bottom line.
And breaking tonight, the clock says just after midnight, the shutdown has begun. Democrats refusing to back a Republican plan to fund the government before the midnight deadline. Leaders on the right say it is all political theater.
Breaking this hour, senators were just voting on a second stopgap bill to fund the government. This is the Republicans' proposed funding bill. It's expected to fail. Last hour, the Democrats' proposed funding bill failed in the chamber. Barring some kind of miracle, in less than 5 hours, the government will shut down.
Now, despite it not being a frequent occurrence, there have been a number of government shutdowns in the past, 14 to be exact.
There have only been 14 since 1981, most of which were relatively short. Before 1981, there would be periods where the government would briefly run out of funds during an appropriations impasse, but government functions would work mostly as usual on the expectation that money would be provided later. It was in 1980 and 1981 when then Attorney General Benjamin Civiletti argued government agencies didn't have legal authority to continue running without congressionally provided funds. Most of these shutdowns have been fairly short. There were 8 during the Reagan years, all of which were 1 to 3 days. The long shutdown became a political reality in 1995 during a 21-day standoff between Democratic President Bill Clinton and congressional Republicans. 2013 saw a 16-day shutdown with closed national parks. The longest to date, though, currently, it started a few days before Christmas in 2018 and lasted 34 days. That shutdown cost the economy about $3 billion, according to the Congressional Budget Office. 800,000 employees, or 37% of the federal workforce, were either furloughed or worked without pay.
Even though the good herb itself is not federally recognized, the systems that support the industry, banking, research, enforcement, and even healthcare are all tied to Washington. And when Washington shuts down, so do many of those gears. When it comes to licensing and research, if you're a scientist waiting on DEA approval for hemp or cannabis research, then too bad. Those applications sit on a desk. When it comes to FDA reviews for CBD and THC-based medicines, those are also frozen. And here's a big one. The ongoing federal review to reschedule the good herb from Schedule 1 to 3, a shutdown could throw that timeline completely off. And that means delayed progress on the legalization momentum. And then, of course, there's banking, something which cannabis companies already struggle with. When it comes to banking, cannabis companies already struggle to get financial services because of federal restrictions. During a shutdown, agencies like FinCEN, who issue compliance guidelines, go dark. That makes banks even more skittish. Some banks may freeze accounts, stop accepting new cannabis clients, or pile on extra reporting requirements. And what does that mean for dispensaries? Well, more cash-heavy operations, which leaves you at risk for robberies and also higher insurance costs. Now, when it comes to growth and investment in the industry, investors hate uncertainty. If the government shuts down, cannabis stocks usually take a hit. Multi-state operators might pause mergers or expansion plans. Even IRS processes get delayed, meaning that tax refunds, audits, and credits tied to cannabis businesses literally get stuck in limbo. So when Washington stalls, the industry loses momentum, and in this industry, time is money. Now, let's talk about medical patients, because this is where shutdowns get personal for lots of folks. Veterans are a prime example. Many rely on VA doctors for guidance, and while the VA doesn't prescribe the good herb, the doctors often play a role in medical decisions. If the VA operations are slow, then veterans may get caught in the mess. Patients in states that rely on federal verification systems could face delays getting or renewing their medical cannabis cards. Testing labs, which sometimes use federally regulated equipment, may also slow down. And if testing is delayed, dispos cannot legally sell certain batches of product, and that means empty shelves. Now imagine being a cancer patient or someone with chronic pain and you walk into your dispo only to be told that your medicine is not available because the testing lab hasn't cleared it yet. That's the hidden cost of political gridlock. Now, it's not just about veterans and medical patients because regular consumers will feel it too, though in different ways. When it comes to pricing pressures, shutdowns literally shake up the economy. People tighten their wallets, that means smaller dispensary purchases, and more consumers are shifting to cheaper black market herb. On top of that, if supply chains get disrupted, dispos may raise their prices just to keep products on the shelves. And then there's always the legal uncertainty. That's another wrinkle. Enforcement guidance is a big factor here. In the past, DOJ memos like the Cole memo shaped how federal prosecutors handle the good herb. During shutdowns, those communications can stall. And that creates uncertainty for states and operators who are wondering, are the feds going to look the other way or are they going to crack down? Now, all of this can cause confidence in the legal market to shudder. When people see shutdowns, they realize how fragile the legal market still is, and it's a reminder that without firm federal legalization, the entire system rests on shifting sand. Now let's flip it to the home growers, because here's the good news. You're probably the least affected group. If you live in a state that allows home growing, a federal shutdown does not change your legal right to plant seeds, water them, or harvest your own medicine. But there are indirect effects. Ordering nutrients, lights, tents, or seeds online, shipping delays could happen if postal and customs services slow down. And if inflation rises during a shutdown, grow supplies may get more expensive. Ironically though, home growers may end up the most stable group because growing your own keeps you insulated from dispensary chaos and rising prices. So what happens if the shutdown is short versus long? If it's short term, 1 to 2 weeks, that's mostly an inconvenience. Research delays, nervous investors, and slower shipping. But if it's longer term, a number of months, that's where it gets dangerous. Research pipeline freezes, cannabis rescheduling gets shelved, stock prices tank, patients lose access, and billions of dollars in the industry growth will vanish. For the industry, shutdowns mean stalled progress. For patients, it can mean real suffering. For consumers, higher prices and legal uncertainty. For home growers, you're safer but not immune. And all of this comes down to one thing. Cannabis lives in a weird limbo. Legal in some states, illegal federally, and it's always one budget away from complete chaos. Now, all that said, both sides are blaming each other when it comes to this government shutdown.
This is a temper tantrum of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats saying, we hate Donald Trump.
Republicans have failed to get enough votes to avoid a shutdown.
So clearly we got two sides arguing like kids in a playground and no one can come to an agreement.
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
If the government shuts down, it will be average Americans who suffer most. A government shutdown means seniors who rely on Social Security could be thrown into chaos.
Families will be hurt. Farmers will be hurt.
It's the service members who will work without a paycheck. It's the firefighters who will be furloughed.
This shutdown, you know who's going to feel the pain? You know who it hurts? You. Everyday people and the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
Democrats are signaling they're ready for a fight. This time, Schumer tells the Associated Press, quote, things have changed.
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
Just a quick reminder, if you're getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club or cop some merch from our merch store. And if you happen to be a home gardener, try the ICANN Organics. Use the code LEGAL, it works on the bundle and the beans. Now, there are lots of details and hidden things tucked away in the fine print of this whole matter, so you guys really need to dig into the details to figure out what's really going on. One undeniable fact is that healthcare is playing a massive part in this entire thing. Specifically, whether billions of dollars is being used to fund healthcare for illegal immigrants. Now, certain lawmakers on one side of the aisle are saying that that's not happening, but it turns out that that's not necessarily the case.
Waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer dollars. A key focus has been Medicaid, with GOP lawmakers introducing legislation that prohibits healthcare funding and benefits to illegal aliens. They argue it served as a magnet for crossing the border illegally without seeking asylum. Joining us this morning to discuss the latest headlines on the Hill is Washington insider Armstrong Williams. Good to see you, sir, as always.
Morning.
How much funding has gone to cover medical expenses specifically for illegal aliens?
$27 billion. 3 meals a day, unlimited health care, unlimited visits,
Now this is taxpayer dollars, and considering how expensive healthcare is in America, I can see why a lot of people may not necessarily want their taxpayer dollars to go to people who are not there legally. Now all that said, we know that politicians lie, and even if they say that some of these folks are not getting benefits on Medicaid, we know that that may not be the case. Just like they say some of these folks are not able to vote, but turns out they end up voting anyway.
Right, but one of the other problems too is that under federal funds, illegal aliens are allowed to get emergency Medicaid, which is short-term funding. So in Gavin Newsom's case, even though he dug his state into bankruptcy because of giving free healthcare to illegal aliens, even if he freezes his funding and kicks all of the illegal aliens off, they are still eligible for federal Medicaid. So that's why we need Congress to seriously overhaul it, hopefully with this bill.
The city of San Francisco has begun to register illegal immigrants to vote in the 2018 elections. Illegal immigrants, people whose first action in our country was breaking our laws. But yeah, let's give them the right to vote. Funny how liberals have spent the past week screaming about foreign meddling in our elections when it comes to the Russians, but they don't seem to have a problem with foreign meddling in our elections if it means registering illegal immigrants to vote. These illegal immigrants will be allowed to vote in the school board elections. Liberals assure us illegals won't be allowed to vote in statewide races or in federal elections because that is against federal law.
Now, as always, I show you guys what both sides are saying so you guys can make an educated decision and come to the bottom line. Now, this next clip shows why you cannot trust politicians because they say some of these individuals cannot vote, they're not voting, but this actually proves otherwise. Check it out.
There are mounting questions about how an illegal immigrant who has faced criminal charges and deportation orders was able to serve as a Baltimore City principal and most recently as the head of Iowa's largest school district. ICE agents in Iowa arrested Ian Roberts of Guyana on Friday after they say that he took off in his car, dumped it, and then ran into a wooded area. ICE says he was found with a loaded weapon and $3,000 in cash. Roberts also had a long criminal past in the United States. In 1999, he overstayed his student visa. A year later, Roberts was charged with weapons possession, and in 2024, an immigration judge issued a final order of removal. Well, now questions are mounting about how he was able to work for years without authorization.
And back in Maryland, Roberts' ties to Baltimore City schools are under review, but concerns are now shifting beyond the classroom as state records suggest the non-citizen may have been registered to vote. Tonight, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor pressing election officials and school leaders for some answers. Rebecca.
And Mary, in Maryland, you can look up anyone's voter registration information online. And tonight we're learning Ian Roberts appears to be listed despite his immigration status.
A high-profile ICE arrest in Iowa, now raising questions here in Maryland.
Thousands of people on here, we have no idea.
Following a state audit in 2023, finding over 2,400 potentially deceased voters and more than 300 duplicate registrations on Maryland's voting rolls. In 2025, the DOJ requesting the state's voter registration data. Instead, Maryland's state administrator of elections writing back, demanding to first know, quote, whether the voter registration list would be used for enforcement of immigration laws against Maryland residents.
So you guys can see why it's so difficult to trust politicians and listen to what they say, and also to believe mainstream media. And I've been getting a lot of flack for calling out the left lately, but what we do on this channel is show you guys what both sides are saying so that you guys can make an educated decision for yourself. So all that said, let me know what you guys think about the government shutdown. Do you think it's more political theater? Do you think it'll impact the cannabis industry? And how long do you think it'll last? Drop it in the comments down below. Now you guys may have missed this, but the good herb has been blacklisted and social media is censoring content related to the herb. So if you haven't seen it, check that video because it's coming up right now.